Donald Trump's 25% tariffs now in effect, many here in Canada have suggested it's time for our country to better diversify and expand trade links instead of continuing to rely on the U.S. Statistics Canada says last year the U.S. was the destination for 75.9% of our nation's total exports, and America was the source of 62.2% of total imports. One proposal to create stronger Canadian trade with other allies comes from an organization called Canzuk International, which since 2015 has called for free trade, free movement, and closer foreign policy ties between Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by James Skinner. He's the founder and chief executive of Canzuk International. James, what exactly are you proposing here in terms of free movement, free trade, and closer foreign policy?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's good to be with you. Yeah, so Canzuk, as you pointed out, is an acronym between Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. And the idea behind this is that these four countries can collaborate together for free movement, trade, and foreign policy. It's really a sort of a new idea, but based on existing agreements. So free movement, for example, whereby citizens can live and work in each other's countries. That's very much based on what Australia and New Zealand already have under their Trans-Tasman Travel Agreement, whereby citizens can live and work freely in either country, providing they don't have any criminal records or any infectious health conditions. It's the same with trade as well. You know, Australia and New Zealand also have a very good trading system in place under the Closer Economic Relations Trade Agreement, and that allows for the free movement of goods and services between the two countries, where goods and services can flow freely, tariff-free, and obviously with no barriers to commerce. So simply the Canzuk initiative is very much that Canada and the UK can join on to these agreements, and we can have reciprocal migration and trade between these four countries, and it would really better all four countries, especially Canada at a time whereby the USA is putting on a lot of pressure in terms of tariffs on Canada, and Canada is looking for alternatives and new relationships with its closest allies abroad.
How much economic benefit could a deal like this offer Canada?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so at the moment, the stats say that about trade between these four countries is estimated between $3 to $3.5 trillion. Which is certainly something not to shy away from. Now, of course, the USA obviously impacting tariffs, that will obviously be way more than that. But, you know, Canzuk trade in that sense can certainly put a dent and mitigate some of that damage that we're talking about. And it's not only just trade as well. You know, the UK and Australia did a trade agreement back in 2022, which I think is a good basis for this, whereby they incorporated trade, the free movement of goods and services between the two countries. But they also did what I refer to as a trade plus, whereby they also incorporated other avenues on that trade agreement, primarily reciprocal migration between the two countries. So if you had a profession in Australia, such as you were a dentist or a doctor, you could live and work in the UK without having to go through arduous credential reassignments and things like that. So there's certainly a lot of benefit for this for Canada in terms of economics, but also as well in terms of social policy as well.
Given Trump's tariffs, I could see why people in Canada might be on board with this idea. But do you think there's political will in the other nations? And have you had any support from Canadian officials?
We certainly have, yes. So Canzuk has actually been adopted as official party policy of the two major parties in Canada, being obviously the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party. It was very much endorsed at the last election, with Erin O'Toole as the leader of the Conservative Party, and it's recently been incorporated as Liberal Party policy with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the helm right now. So we've also had a lot of public support too. So polling that was conducted, albeit a few years ago, showed that there was about 70% support in the UK, about 73% support in Canada, 76% support in Australia, and about 82% in New Zealand. So there's certainly a lot of public support for this. There's also the political will for this as well. And since the rhetoric from President Trump towards Canada about Canada being a 51st state, and also as well, you know, the tariffs that have now been implemented on Canada, there's certainly a lot of Canadian support now to see this happen, because I think Canadians are now realizing that, you know, albeit as sad as it is that, you know, the USA has gone this route, we do have a silver lining whereby we can explore, you know, alternative avenues with our allies abroad, being Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, where we can explore trade agreements and also reciprocal migration and foreign policy development. So there's a silver lining to all of this, albeit disappointing that the USA has gone this route, but, you know, Canada's certainly got a bright future ahead of it.